Hello. This is NoCB, a grand strategy podcast. I'm Fab Loris doing a janky introduction as usual whenever I have to do one of these things. Joining us today is Lambert, as always.
Yep, hello.
And our very special guest, The Great Book of Grudges.
Yeah.
And this week we are pretty much entirely going to be talking about Warhammer.
Yeah, I mean it makes sense.
Yeah,
for sure.
Because I know, well, me and Lambert pretty much been playing Warhammer rather a lot. Great Book of Grudges.
Yeah, for me it's like half my life. Great Book of Grudges. How long have you been into Warhammer?
25 years now. 25 years.
And how old are you?
I was 4 when I started. I'm going to be I'm going to be 30 this year, so it's going to be 26 years. It's a long time, a long time.
Yeah.
And
veteran.
But I've never looked back. I mean, I've got Warhammer tattoos on me. Oh, you can't see it because of the green screen. But yeah, I've got Chaos Star. I've got a few other symbols on me. Like this universe is my life.
Yeah, definitely seems that way. But yeah, so we brought you on mostly to talk about Total War Warhammer 3, which obviously is kind of a big thing that's happened recently in strategy gaming. And yeah, you had early access to the game as well. What was like the stuff that you couldn't talk about then, but you can now, and like how is it about?
Well,
is there anything that was like, oh, I really want to talk about this, but I can't?
Well, pretty much anything that I wanted to talk about, everything's out in the open now because I base my stuff on what people want to see, what I assume my fan base wants to see, and so on. And it's been just throwing out information, lore about certain characters who've returned. Like, for example, in my background, I've got Nekari, so I've been discussing him on streams. I do still need to do a lore video on him, talking about the various different factions, what their purpose is, what their meaning is, what the gods themselves are, because there's just so much lore that even Warhammer 1 and Warhammer 2 didn't touch upon yet, and Warhammer 3 is just starting to touch upon. Like, there is so much I want to literally see from this, and hopefully we will. But so far, like we've seen so many new factions, mono gods, which even I didn't expect. Grand Cafe was just blew my mind. I mean, I've been playing constantly. I can say my hours, which is fine. And just give me a second. I've got 378 hours in the game already.
Yeah. I mean, the cafe was a big shock for me too when that popped out, because I was expecting, like, obviously the Darklands and stuff, but I thought maybe they'd like cafe as like a DLC, like Vampire Coast, like an afterthought way down the line. You know what I mean? But like having it front and center like this is a bit of a shock. It makes a financial decision, I guess.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
The cynic in me thought when it was announced, they're looking to capitalize on the success of Three Kingdoms and the new market that they just brought, Total War to in China.
Yep.
And I was slightly worried that, as cynics, cynical that it was going to be a bit of a cash grab in that particular sense. I was surprised at just how fun and fleshed out everything in Cathay is. It is one. I'll say one of my favorite nations to play. There's only like one that I don't like playing. But yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Well, what's that one?
Don't tell Barely Tactical, but it's Nurgle. I don't like playing Nurgle.
He's not in a good spot right now.
No.
Nurgle's not in a good spot. Like, I see that from the fan base a lot saying that.
It's not even the way that they play. It's not the mechanics. It's not the stats. It's just, I've never liked Nurgle. The whole disease thing has just always been not for me.
Nurgle's always been my favorite Chaos God, but like, his gameplay is not great.
But it's different.
Yeah. I mean, I maybe I'm just too thick, but I find it very hard to keep track of my buildings, cycles and stuff, and maybe I'd quite like micromanagement. But there's a lot going on in your management, and then the way they play, very slow, and if you counter an archer,
Yeah.
You know,
Kislev's, everyone's got some kind of ranged weapon, like it's just a death and Nurgle.
Well, God forbid you ever fight the Wood Elves. I've luckily enough not encountered the Wood Elves as Nurgle yet, but ruined. Sinch is a nightmare. Right.
Yeah.
There is one Wood Elf faction there in Lorelorn Forest, but they normally get destroyed fairly early on because Scrog goes off on a genocide every single campaign.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think there's one campaign that I have that he hasn't just taken over the Empire fully.
No, he's very powerful. It's pretty weak. It's kind of funny as you're playing Kislev, you know, normally the dynamic between the Empire and Kislev is the one who's like in horrible straits, but as you're playing Kislev, like you're going south to try and protect Karl Franz from his ogre.
Ostland calls for aid against the vampire counts again. Please join me. I'll give you 1,000. I'll give you 2,000. No, I'm good. I'm good. You deal with that. I'm dealing with like literally the gates of hell have opened, and we need to not be helping you with a bloody vampire problem.
Yeah,
I'd say Scrag would have a lot more of a difficult time dealing with the Wood Elves if every time I played the Legions of Chaos, playing as the custom demon guy, the Wood Elves didn't just have a hard-on for sending their boats north to deal with me. It's like, just defend your own. Oh no! Now you're taking attrition because you lost your tree to Scrag. Yeah, good job there. They priorities are not quite right.
Yeah. Well, player bias has always been a bit of a weird thing with Total War.
Yes, it has.
I never really experienced it much. I almost exclusively play multiplayer, to be honest. So player bias is, I never really experienced it.
Yeah, you experience the player bias with the other players trying to screw you over.
That's right, yeah.
That does the trick.
I should say that multiplayer in Warhammer 3 has been amazing. I don't know if you two have had a chance to play around with it, man.
Yeah, I've done about 70-something turns of a 5 or 6 player head-to-head campaign. That's been pretty fun.
I haven't played too much of it myself. I played with other creators when we were testing out the stuff and so on, but I'm not really a multiplayer guy. Like, I've done a stream recently with a friend of mine, Warmaster Moloch, but that's just because we get along, so we're like, screw it, let's just do a co-op. Yeah. But other than that, I've really just not got really too much interest in multiplayer. I let the other people do that who are far more competent.
I'm quite surprised because normally multiplayer has been very much a minority, like in Warhammer. But I was looking at the achievements. It's 20% of people have got the achievement for playing a multiplayer campaign. Which,
well, they want the competitive edge because obviously we had the tournament like Everchosen and so on. Like these games, even Warhammer 1 and Warhammer 2, they were quite competitive.
Yeah.
So like it is nice to see because obviously that is Warhammer. You know, you want to see battles and so on. So it works out really, really well. The new mode is good. It's very fun. But like I'm just not a multiplayer guy. Plus I get toxic as shit. So.
I do too, and if I give my friend like a control of like a very prized unit and then they run off and have it on a suicide mission, I'm like, oh, thanks for doing that, you've been a real help. Great. Thanks, it's on like a sliver of health now. Yeah, get the same.
Yeah, anything bigger than say 6 people in the not competitive, the 8-player simultaneous thing. We tried that as well, but it was it didn't work out so well. The just wasn't really where it needs to be. So hopefully future patches will deal with some of the stability issues that we've got.
Well, like I always tell people, and I put it out on my my review and so on. If you're expecting the game that you're expecting, you need to wait a little while because no Total War game ever releases perfectly.
Yeah,
true.
Like I still sung the game high praises because at the end of the day, this is the game I wanted, and I know what's coming in the future. You know, I know that this will eventually get better because this what we had with Warhammer 2 and Warhammer 1. Warhammer 1's launch was crap. I mean, it's never been as bad as, say, for example, Rome 2.
Yes, yeah. I was going to say,
no, that would have been.
But it always happens, and it's getting better, and people are finding ways around it, and so on. Like, thankfully, my community is very active, and they've been talking to each other. Oh, turn down this setting, turn off this setting, and so on, and it's working. And that's the main thing. Even my stuff wasn't running too well. It's running a lot better now. They'll have a patch eventually. I trust the devs. I know they're not going to ignore it.
Yeah.
I mean, the game that we're all really kind of waiting for is the Immortal or Mortal Empires 2 or whatever they're going to end up calling it, where we've got the entire map. We'll have all of the factions that we've had in Warhammer 1, Warhammer 2, all the DLCs that we've bought for all those previous games as well, all in one place. That's going to be like the de facto way to play when it comes out. And I think until then, this sort of feels like an early access period. Where we're getting a very heavily narrative mini campaign that is pretty big for a mini campaign, I will admit. But until that Immortal Empires is out, I don't think we're really seeing what this game can truly be yet.
Yeah, I mean, Immortal Empires will be big hype. Like, obviously, there's been the Datamine map and so on. So, like, a lot of people are very excited for it. I myself, the moment I saw it, I was like, wow. Like, it's still not the world I want because it's missing a few things.
Yeah.
But this brings so much speculation, so much. It brought a lot of joy to the community too, because there's just so many. Like, obviously, look, Lustria is its proper size, which has been a massive issue in Mortal Empires because it was just too small. It was cramped and so on. The Southlands is nice and big now. It looks like it's been expanded and made a little bit chunkier. We have the Northern Chaos Waste, pretty much the actual size of it. The Southern Chaos Waste, which even I was like, wait, what?
I was shocked by that too.
Yeah, because there's like literally no lore for it. There's like 5 sentences, and that's pretty much it.
It exists, but that's all we're going to tell you.
Yeah.
Now back to the north.
There's some really interesting stuff about the south, though, because in the south, there's no Warriors of Chaos. So the Chaos Gods bless Beastmen, which is unknown in Warhammer lore. So we know that there's a faction there called the Beast Fiends, which I am very, very curious about. So that's something like now potentially could be a thing. We've obviously got Ind, Koresh.
Yeah.
Ind, I know, has been very highly requested. Koresh, I mean, there's loads of fan projects around that and so on by highly talented artists. There's just so much that we could see. Unfortunately, no Nippon. However, I think that we will get it eventually. I think that it will be based on a map expansion. They have to rewrite a lot of Nipponese lore because, let's just be honest, that lore wasn't good.
Yeah. I mean, it was written in a time where, racism was kind of more acceptable. There was, but,
I wouldn't even call it racism. I'd call it some dudes who had no idea about the outside world, who've probably never even spoken to, like, anyone outside of their town. Let alone, say, for example, a woman, because early GW lore was very cringe.
Yeah, that's true.
And
where was GW based, actually? Back then?
The original one?
I don't know about that back then, but it's now in Nottingham.
Yeah, it's in Nottingham now.
Yeah, well, that would explain it if it's Nottingham, really.
I mean, what's wrong with Nottingham?
Because I don't know. I just wanted to poke fun at Nottingham, to be honest.
That's fair enough.
I was going to say that same joke, no matter where it was based, if I'm completely honest.
But they can rewrite it because we've seen it. Like, say, for example, if you look, because a lot of people don't look at this type of stuff, but say Araby. Araby is a faction I really want, right?
Yeah.
So, like, a lot of people go, no, because they had stereotypes. It's like, yes, they did. And that was rewritten a few years later. Nobody looks at that part.
Yeah.
Because, originally, Araby, its god was called Allah, and so on, right? Keep in mind that how it worked for Warhammer Fantasy, and a lot of people don't understand this, is that the creators, the original ones, like Rick Priestley and so on, Ian Livingstone and so on, they are history nerds.
Yep.
They're history nerds. They wanted a historical game. Games Workshop used to do historical games. And what they did to create Warhammer Fantasy was oh, let's just get real world and then turn it into that, which is why you see the map. It's pretty much our world.
Yeah.
And Araby was changed. Araby was praised to be more of a trader nation and so on, which was really cool. Like, I love the idea of a new style of Araby. I would love, like desert riders and so on, because we get a little bit hints of that in the Dogs of War Army book. And I know it'll come eventually because it's a lot of money, man. Plus, they can hit a side of the market which they haven't hit yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The way I look at it is they've got... It's strange to me that Nippon wasn't on this map, even if they had no official plans to ever do anything with Nippon. They also didn't have any plans to do anything with Albion, but that island was on the map.
Yeah,
and you could see, okay, if this game is going in a direction where, it will accept new DLC, it's still profitable, people are still buying it, still playing it, still got massive numbers on concurrent players on Steam. Why not have that in your back pocket, the potential of, okay, we can do it now because we've done everybody else, the entire thing's filled up, but we got this island that has some hints in the lore, let's just do it. It makes money and people already want it. Why not?
I can't see it happening because I think you have to factor in that they're going to release DLC for Warhammer 3, right? So the factions have to take into account that you're not going to be playing Mortal Empires, because I assume to play Mortal Empires you'll have to own either 1 or 2.
All 3 games.
All 3 games, is it? Yeah, okay, cool. So we're not going to release DLC for anything that is not set in the map area of Warhammer. I don't think we're going to see Araby, and I don't think we're going to see Albion. And
see, I can justify that without a problem. Right, so Araby, historically, which a lot of people don't seem to grasp, is that they are part of the Dogs of War. So a lot of people go, oh, the Southern Kingdoms, TEB, Talia Stalia Border Princes. But no, there were Arabians in that book too. So I see it as, if we get a Dogs of War Army book, which Marienburg is in the map, there we go. You can easily play the Legendary Lord there and move out. And, well, it's not out of the question to see, say, for example, an Arabian sorcerer going into the Chaos Waste to find something, or a Truthsayer or Dark Emissary from Albion going into the Chaos Waste to find something, because it happens often in lore.
Well, I think we might see a Dogs of War Stalia sort of thing, because I think what is on the map that is a bit of the dark horse for DLC wise is the Dragon Isles, right? So they can shoehorn,
that's more Lizardmen.
Yeah, but I think they can shoehorn some sort of colony or something. Like they,
just an adventuring company. Like we've got some of those in Warhammer 2, where races are far away from where they're historically supposed to be. Like Tyrion and Teclis, one of them starts in Ulthuan, one of them starts in Lustria, because one of them went on a little adventure.
Yeah.
Oh, you have the same thing here in the Mortal Empires map. Sure, you've got them in their proper position, but in Warhammer 2, maybe he's just adventuring in somewhere that we know, somewhere that we can see on that map.
Yeah, I think that's it.
It's definitely possible. I mean, I see it as they're going to want to milk this. Games Workshop are going to want to milk this.
Yeah.
Because this is great promo for, say, for example, Old World and so on. So it's not out of the question. Keep in mind that they only started thinking about Cafe around the time of the development, right? When they started actually working on Warhammer 3.
Yeah.
So that was they said it was 3.5 years ago. And then it's not CA making the armies. It's not CA making the units. It's GW. So that has to be done first and so on, which is why I think we're not going to get Nippon until a few years down the line, which is why it's not on the map, because it will require a heavy rewrite. And first, well, we've got Ind, we've got the Dogs of War, we've got Albion, we've got Koresh. Let's get those out of the way, because we need that landmass there, but we don't need the landmass of Nippon there just yet.
Yeah.
And army books take a long time to write. A long time.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to get the obvious ones first, obviously, right? We're going to get the dark, what's it called, Cast Dwarves.
Yeah.
I'm so looking forward to that.
That's a given.
Yeah.
That Hell Cannon model is one of my favorites from the Chaos range, and I was so happy to see it in Total War Warhammer. Yeah. It's like I want to see more of the Chaos Dwarves. That'd be pretty cool.
Chaos Dwarves should be interesting. I wonder what look they're going to go for, because there were 2 different iterations of them.
Yeah.
We had the Babylonian look, which was more, which I think was 4th edition. So they had the big hats and so on. And then 8th edition was the more industrial look, which is, I've got armies of both. They played very similar because Chaos Dwarves were just horrendously overpowered on the tabletop.
Yeah.
Both looks are cool. I wouldn't mind a healthy mix of both.
Yeah, that's what I was. Yeah, I want to see industrialized cigarettes. Basically, that's my ideal. Cigarettes with chimneys would be ideal.
It should be interesting. I trust because obviously this is again this would be GW, because a new design would have to be GW, and then CA can then do their little magic on it.
Yeah.
But we know that Chaos Dwarves are coming for Age of Sigmar too, which makes me think that's why we haven't seen the Chaos Dwarves yet, because I wanted the Chaos Dwarves first.
Yeah.
It made more sense.
Yeah.
But then we ended up getting the Ogres, and I'm like, we're going to get them for Age of Sigmar. They'll probably be backward compatible for Old World. That's why we haven't seen them yet, and then we will when the army eventually comes out.
Yeah. It could even be that, we've had Babylonians, we've had the industrial, maybe they're going to get another bit of a redesign for Age of Sigmar, and then that's really what's going to be put into the game. That the next rewrite for them.
I doubt it. I completely doubt it, because basically the industrial-sized Chaos Dwarves, those ones, were actually a splinter force. They were what could be considered the border guard for the Chaos Dwarves. So they were the ones closest to the World's Edge Mountains, because they had more skirmishes against, say, for example, Grimgor Ironhide or any of the dwarfs, because they do have a lot of issues with them. So they had to be a lot heavier armored. They had to have a better machinery. They had, for example, the Dreadquake motor was actually fucking terrifying on the tabletop. And they were just there for that. So I imagine that they'll be mixed, or at least that's my hope, because I know a lot more people want the original look.
Yeah.
Because it's an iconic look.
Yeah.
The Babylonian hats and so on, they were so cool. And, I mean, Chaos Dwarfs in general just were freaking awesome.
Yeah. The big plaited beards with and the architecture, but just, dwarves with big lava-filled cigarettes. It's just cool.
Definitely.
I'm most interested to see if they're going to introduce a type of corruption from, I think, because we were talking about this a little bit last week, about if they're going to be worshipping Baal, or is it just going to be wrapped into just chaos and divided corruption?
So their god is the Lord of Ash, Hashut.
Hashut, that's it. Oh, yeah.
I imagine that they will have some sort of corruption.
Yeah.
I think it's actually been a hot debate on my Discord with my community, whether they'll have Chaos Undivided corruption or whether they'll have Ash corruption and so on, which I think it makes more sense, because imagine with Chaos Dwarfs, with how industrial they are, turning the land into this smog-ridden area and so on.
Yeah.
Like, it would be awesome,
Some Isengard level stuff.
Exactly.
Oh, I love it. Yeah. No, I can see it now. I love it.
Yeah. I think that would be my ideal too. It'd be great, and you'll have the sort of unique little things popping up on the map like you do with Skaven corruption, but like little chimneys and stuff and smoke piles, and that'd be great. But it is also a lot of work. So I can see a developer just going for the easy option and going, we've already got the graphics for Chaos Undivided Corruption. It's got lava in it already, so
yeah.
The thing is, with the Chaos Dwarfs being so popular, so very, very popular, that I imagine that they'll maybe keep and then add to the Undivided Corruption.
Yeah.
So it'll share very similar visuals, but add a lot more, because it's not supposed to be like lava. It's supposed to be wasteland.
Yeah.
Like all natural resources have been drained from the area. There is nothing left. No minerals, no water, nothing. And I know CA will probably be thinking of that, because a lot of CA staff are Warhammer nerds, and that's a great thing, because you can see the enthusiasm when you see new units and so on, or something which is completely different. Like, they put a lot of love and care into it.
Oh yeah.
Definitely agree with that one.
Yeah,
it's nice to have, obviously, you make a better game if you're passionate about what the content of the game is.
Yeah, it's such a boon that CA managed to get this. like as a franchise.
To be fair, it's not very difficult to get a Warhammer license.
No,
that's true.
But we talked about this too in the past too. It seems to be that only Warhammer never seems to give licenses out to people who make good games.
It's a bit of a coin toss. It's a bit of a coin toss. But there are some cool devs working on stuff. I mean, we saw like 2.5 seconds of Space Marine 2, and it looked like Space Marine. So that for me was like, oh, that's freaking great.
Yeah.
And we've seen the B-roll footage of Chaos Gate. And that looks really cool because I knew of Frontier, the publishers for that game, but I knew them because of, like park management games and so on.
Yeah.
And then they come up with this XCOM looking style Warhammer game, and I'm like, fuck, that looks great.
Yeah. Fat Shark too. Shout out to Fat Shark.
Fat Shark.
Vermintide.
They're working. Yeah, Vermintide. They've got Darktide on the way eventually. So they're very passionate, and you can see the details in the model and the maps. They go full ham. Yeah. Like that's a developer you can trust.
That's right. Yeah. Sure. But
then there's also some
Man of War and stuff.
Some right chaff.
Yeah.
See, Man of War, I think, was done as a cash grab.
Yeah.
Because Warhammer fans will buy anything with Warhammer on it. And I'll tell you what, it's a good game. It's a good game. Like, it's not bad.
Yeah.
And it just spent a lot of time in early access. And then he started working on another project at the same time and so on. And eventually GW said, well, we're going to revoke the license. But there are other games that are lesser known, like, say, for example, Gladius. Gladius I really enjoy, right?
Yeah, played that. That's nice.
I haven't played that.
It's really good. It's basically Civilization, but Warhammer. There's another one because this is all from Slytherin Games. There's also Battle Sector has been very good, and the new update sounds really promising because they're going to do procedurally generated campaigns. You're going to be able to play as the Tyranids and the Necrons too. And they have a DLC cycle that they want to really push out. So it's like, that's great. They want to actively support the game. I've really liked Slytherin as a company. My discussions with their PR rep has always been really, really nice. Yeah. Like, I think that they've got their heart in the right place. And yes, it's a cash grab because it's Warhammer, but they've got people working on the game that like Warhammer. Like, their last blog was literally talking about how they animated the Necrons in game for Battle Sector's DLC.
Yeah.
And they said, oh, no, our reference wasn't artwork. Our reference was the miniatures. And they brought out a bunch of miniatures that they had built themselves and so on. And they used that. I was like, that's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
That's important. That's stuff like that. That's what drives the player base to go, oh, yeah, I'm going to buy this,
Yeah.
Slightly scary on that one, though, because I played Necrons for a while. And gluing them together was a royal fucking nightmare. That the joint between the spine and the hips can just fuck right off, honestly. So yeah, that's a dangerous one because are they gonna in game fall in half like 50% of the time when you move them? Because if not, that's not the authentic Necron experience.
I think they're going with the 9th edition look, which they're a bit bulkier.
Yeah, but like I said, there's some really good Warhammer games. What's Battlefleet Gothic? Really, really good.
Gothic was great.
The just authenticity of that one is just awesome.
It's a great cutscenes. I just love the orc cutscene in that video game. It's such a wonderful insight into the chaos that is an orc warship.
It's touch and go. I mean, there are some bad games. Some of them which are bad, but still kind of they've got a charm. Like, say for example, Mordheim, right?
Yeah.
Mordheim isn't great.
I don't like Mordheim,
I loved it, but the devs abandoned it within 11 months, and then they worked on Necromunda, and guess what? That's been abandoned too.
Yep. Yeah. There's of course
which is a shame.
The MMO too, which was rubbish.
But that was all. That MMO was all lies. Like the 40k MMO, Eternal Crusade. That was all fucking lies that they were spitting out just to sell publicity and get it crowdfunded and so on. That is a cancerous company, and unfortunately, they took people's money and they swindled a bunch of people.
Yeah. I mean, there was a fantasy one too, which was supposed to be back when we were doing the WoW Killers.
It was a decent MMO. The only problem is it couldn't compete with WoW. I know this is a WoW player myself.
Yeah.
It's still run by because the MMO is active in a way by private server.
Yeah.
And those guys are doing great fucking work.
Yeah, I've been meaning to like try that out. I'm also waiting for like the original PlanetSide to be. I think there's somebody doing PlanetSide forever, but these private servers always struggled with player numbers.
This one has about 5,000 active people or something, which isn't bad for a server.
Yeah, that's not too shabby. Yeah, I should check that out in the future. It's of course like a great modding community too. I think all the best will have it until like Great Assembly and Fat Shark. Like some of the best Warhammer games being mods. There's one of my favorite mods for Civilization 3, showing my age a little bit too. Like it's the Warhammer mod, which is phenomenal.
I mean, you've got that with there's a Bannerlord mod called the Old Realms. It's developing really closely. I've been speaking to the devs. Like, it's so ambitious. They've managed to do teleporting mechanics and undeath and magic and so on. And you can tell that they really love Warhammer. Yeah. Like, they've got people. Part of their modding team is literally people just to research the lore, which I think that's fucking awesome.
Yeah, it is.
Go back to Medieval 2. We've got Botep, which proved that people wanted a Warhammer Total War game, and the modding community for like the Total War Warhammer games, they've got various discords with different little things. Obviously, there's the modding den, which is the biggest one. Then obviously you've got like the Under Empire, which is all the dedicated Skaven modders and so on. There's just so much talent in that community.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Makes absolute sense that the Skaven ones just congregate together.
We
mod for several different games, but we do the Skaven, so we're in together.
Yeah.
Literally, the only person in that Skaven server which isn't a modder is myself.
Yeah, I think famously, there's a large group of people who are very Skaven advocates in Geheimes Nacht, the CK2 mod.
I love that mod. That's my favorite mod for CK2. Geheimes Nacht. Love it.
Favorite too, but the Skaven went in at launch and people were like, keep adding Skaven. Now it's like one of the most. It's got like its own area of a map and everything. It's wonderful.
Nice.
Yeah, doing the Under Empire justice.
Actually, since you guys are very into Paradox games, I heard that they were going to do their own version. Those modders were going to do their own version for CK3.
Yeah.
But then it got radio silent.
Yes.
There's a little. I think it was mostly about the 3D models. It's just taken a bit of time to have 3D models of using Paradox's character engine to show things like skeletons and such.
Yeah,
I think that's what went.
I think also
wrong.
I think with modding communities, modders tend to congregate into like larger mods before the other things, and I think a lot of the prestige fantasy modelers and stuff have moved over to Elder Scrolls. So I think after the Elder Scrolls mods come out, we might see a bit more development from the Geheimes Nacht one, but there's a lot of CK2 modders still working on the CK2 version of Geheimes Nacht. Frankly, I'm not that interested in going back to CK2. I want to have CK3 at the moment. But it's radio sound. But
gonna look more into it and see.
I try to keep up with everything going on with Warhammer, especially fan-made stuff, because obviously that stuff is really, really cool.
Yeah.
And I bought CK3. I was like, I'll learn the game. When eventually this mod comes out, I can get a good hit without making a total jackass out of myself. Because I'm not very used to Paradox-style games.
Yeah, so I think CK3 is a good starting drug, really. So, like that was Solaris, but I was thinking Solaris, to be honest. It's a bit more character driven. There's also Warsword Conquest was the other big one, pretty good. The Mount&Blade's Warband.
Yeah, they had that one too. I didn't play that one too much because I couldn't really get into Mount&Blade until the second game came out.
Yeah.
But like, it's pretty good. I've seen it. It's obviously the models don't look as great and so on because everything's just like very low quality. But as long as like people keep doing it, you know, that you can see there's so much passion from fan-made projects. It's great.
The best is because those models are very, very janky. Chaos, Chaos Marauders and stuff, they have an armor. It's basically like a muscle suit that you put on to make it work, right? But it doesn't key up with like different mounts that you can use. So you could have like this big, massive beefcake of a man riding like a little pony around. It looks hilarious.
Can I introduce you to Total War Warhammer? It's exactly the same. It's canon.
Funny enough, when that debate started happening recently for Total War about the ponies and so on, there was something posted, I think it was by the BBC, that said that the horses back in that time were much smaller. So we were joking around in the Total War Discord with the devs going, oh, right, so it's historically accurate then, right? I want bigger horses, don't get me wrong, but I just found that really funny.
No, make them smaller, make them more like Shetlands, you know, like riding around.
Oh, God. Yeah, it just looks better on like a really huge, imposing horse. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Horses get bigger in the Chaos Waste. It's just facts of life.
Yeah.
Well, I'm pretty sure that like CA are listening and so on. Keep in mind that a lot of stuff is like reused assets and so on.
Yeah.
Now they've just got to shape them up. I'm imagining we will get some better look in the future because like even like, you know, Drogba is tiny, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, man, he's supposed to be a demon. Make him a little bit bigger, you know, just a few injections of steroids and you're fine. And some others do it.
Yeah.
I really want one of the animations for Archeon. I want them to redo the animations just so that one of the things that he'll do while he's, you know, stationary is the literal model's pose. Because it's so iconic.
Yeah. With the horse revving up and him with the sword,
Oh, so cool.
It is a great miniature bastard to paint because that was metal.
Yeah.
But like just a very, very pretty model. Very, very pretty.
I wonder what they're
Speaking
going
of
to do
pretty
with
models.
Oh, go on, sorry.
No, yours.
Yeah, but like, I wonder what they're going to do with Archeon now. Like, when how they're going to fold in like the ever chosen mechanics in.
They'll have to do something. I'm imagining that we're going to find out what timeline we're actually on when they eventually do a Wars of Chaos rework, because they say 8th. They say 8th. Every blog, when people call them out, no, we're doing 8th edition, we promise. But then if you read over it, you're like, yeah, but then you did a Storm of Chaos Army, and then you've done a Storm of Chaos Army, and then yet another Storm of Chaos Army. It's like, are you sure we're not in 6th?
Yeah.
Are you really, really sure? Because it's all looking like we're in Storm of Chaos.
I don't mind. I don't mind just sort of
6th is when I was most into fantasy, so I'm kind of it's right in my element. That's when I really got into fantasy, and you know, 7th and 8th is where I kind of dropped away a little bit.
Yeah.
So I'm happy.
7th was Matt Ward's edition. That was. Ugh.
See, I moved country then to Ireland, and that had one Games Workshop in the entire country, and it was across the other side of the country. So it's a lot more difficult to be into Warhammer than when I was in England.
I'm imagining like some sort of like godforsaken Irish islands like off the coast where you have to like go to get a ferry to a drizzly old Games Workshop.
Oh yeah, that's you know, only the most dedicated could be into Warhammer back then.
Yeah, exactly. It was a sort of like an Irish equivalent of what's it called, the League of Gentlemen village shop, but for Warhammer people.
You'd be surprised how many people travel. Like, for example, I live on a rock. I live literally on a rock. So if I want to go to an official Games Workshop store, and this has been since my childhood, my father back in the day, or my mum, would have to drive me for 2.5 hours. So we go to Malaga City, so we'd have to cross the border, hit a shit ton of toll roads, because it was like 250 kilometers away, to get a game or two in, buy some miniatures, and then come back. And that was pretty much once a fortnight.
Yeah, people
seemed to work out all right.
Yeah, no, it was a distance, but I was a very competitive player. So Mum took me to Tony's because she knew that that's where I wanted to be.
Yeah, perfect.
That's cool. That's cool.
And I don't know. I think we haven't said it on the podcast yet. Just how many models roughly would you be in possession of?
Roughly, I honestly could not say because I don't count them. I've got boxes and boxes. I know I have about 1 million points of Warhammer Fantasy. Just there's then 40k armies, 30k armies, Age of Sigmar stuff, Mordheim stuff, War Master, Gothic. There's a lot. I've poured a lot of time and effort into this hobby because it's something I really enjoy. I mean, if I look back, you can't see because of the green screen, but I've got some armies on display. I've got loads of boxes that need to be done. There's some really vintage stuff, like for example a siege tower, which is still in its cling film, which I must have bought when I was like 11. Then like even right here, I've got army books. Like I can just because I was actually reading over some stuff. So I've got the Blood in the Badlands book, which is a siege supplement, which can't be really too seen. Like I've got two big boxes. You can hear them here. And those are full of sprues because these are actually parts of projects that I'm working on. There's an army book here for the Empire. Some actual some Age of Sigmar stuff too. Like for example, Warhammer Underworlds can't be seen. God, I hate this thing sometimes. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff around my little studio because I just really like painting and playing and making people cry.
Perfect. No, it's great. I mean, it's like if you'd asked like 10-year-old me, like, what do you want to do when you grow up? Like, the first answer would have been work in a Games Workshop. But I think, 10-year-old me didn't know that, you could make a living in Warhammer that wasn't working for Games Workshop, I would have loved to have that much. Just for the people who haven't, like, played Fantasy, don't know the rules and such, you said you've got 1 million points. How much is, for example, Carl Franz in points?
Actually, I can tell you. But the Empire book here.
I chose it because you had the book.
It's a
Carl Franz.
I remember it was like units of like
340 points.
340 points is Carl Franz, and you've got over 1 million.
Yeah. I mean, Skaven Slaves are 2 points a model.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's models that are like worth 1 point, right? I think.
Yeah.
Some of the Skaven ones.
I've been collecting for years. I've been very lucky. When I move, because I like to travel a lot. And say, for example, I'll go to Spain. I'll hit what's called a Miércoles Loco, which is Wednesday markets. And you'd be surprised what you can find there. Sometimes I've been very, very lucky. A friend of mine will give me a tip. Say, this hobby shop might be going out of business soon. And I'll put it on my tracker just in case they post something and so on. Because it might be a distance, like a 4-hour drive. And I was like, well, look, they're doing a closings down sale. Everything's pretty much reduced to cost, even less. Well, I guess I'm going shopping.
I think that's the trick, isn't it? To find like old places, those old toy shops that used to sell like Hornby train sets and stuff. Sometimes that's a bit of Warhammer. It's quite funny seeing those too. It's like because you had like Warhammer next to Sylvanian families or something, like it.
Yeah. There was one in Sevilla, which is about a 2.5-hour drive again.
Mm-hmm.
And that one closed down. I got there like the day earlier because I like Sevilla anyway. It's got a great music venue called Sala Custom, so I go there for concerts all the time. And I was like, oh, fuck it, I'll stay the weekend and then I'll go check out the sale. And at that point, I was like, there's a lot of stock here. So I bought a lot and I needed my friend to come up. And my friend had to bring his car because I bought a lot.
Filming and boot with Warhammer.
Like it was a lot. I remember going back into customs to enter Gibraltar, and I know a lot of the customs officers because at that point I was working for I was working for Rock on the Rock, a music venue that does rock and metal shows. And he knows me very well because we were bringing in like stage gear and so on. He's like, oh, what do you have? He's like, oh, just Warhammer. It's like, that's a lot of Warhammer. and he saw the boxes and he didn't want to do the paperwork. So he's just go through. Don't even pay entrance because you have to pay on taxes to enter stuff and so on. But sometimes they'll be quite generous. It's like, I don't want to do the paperwork. Just go in. I was like, right, there's a car behind me. And that one's mine too. He's like, fucking hell. It's like, it was a good deal, man. I must have come back with... I spent about maybe €1,500.
Yeah.
But I must have bought £10,000 worth of stock.
Yeah, I mean, like,
Jesus.
I suppose it's one of the easier things to slip past customs because, like, I imagine most customs officers don't really know the value of a small figurine that big. Like, how much is that big figurine? It's worth like.
These were all new in box too.
Yeah. £300.
I think I came with because it was mostly Warhammer Fantasy stuff because this was way before the explosion. But I did manage to get a bunch of 40k stuff too, and some of that stuff I just gifted to my friends. I was like, "Oh look, you play Space Marines? Here, have this. It's a Land Raider." Because I had made my money basically. I'd gotten what I wanted to go, and I got a really good deal. Because I have to be smart about this. It's an expensive hobby, man.
It is. Yeah, it is. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I could never afford it as a kid. Sadly, I was saying before the show, like before I actually got a proper job and everything, and had money to spend, like that's when they decided to blow up the world that I cared so much about. I've never been much of a 40k person. I've always just loved fantasy. Never liked it.
I got my wife into Warhammer. We'd been married maybe like 6 months at a time. So this thing that is something that I really like to do as a child, and maybe we could get into it. It'd be a nice bonding thing, painting together. So I was doing Chaos, and she started doing Dark Elves. And about 2 months after we started, we'd got maybe 2-3 units done each, and then I was like, oh yeah. This thing you just started with your wife, it's gone now.
Yeah,
now it's blown up.
It's got blown up, yeah.
Yeah, now we've got Sigmarines.
Yeah.
If you can't tell, I fucking hate Sigmarines. I hate them. They're so garbage.
I think they just.
I've gotten into them now. I've actually gotten into them. The new lore, because I was very much the same. I fucking hated Age of Sigmar, but I gave it a look for some stuff. Like the Bone Reapers look freaking awesome. And,
some of the models, are really nice looking models. I love the dwarven stuff that they've done.
Yeah,
but I hate it on like that emotional level, and that's not. I don't feel any need to get over the hate. Yeah, I'm just gonna hold on to it. It's good.
Well, the lore wasn't good in first. It was getting better in second because that's when I gave it a once over. But I wasn't really too interested. I did get the Games Workshop did contact me round about the beginning of third, and they supplied me with some stuff. And I ended up doing a sponsored post with them, which was actually quite sweet because obviously getting recognized by the company that I've devoted a lot of money to is kind of nice.
Yeah.
And I did a lore video rather than show off the miniatures because I was like, look, I'm not keen on the Stormies, and kind of did that, and it turned out quite well because I was like, oh wow, the new lore is actually not too bad because now the Stormies, they're scared about dying, despite the fact that they can be brought back. It kills their personality as they get brought back each time.
Okay.
So there's a reason for them to fear, which I was like, oh, that's nice. It's pretty grimdark. It's pretty Warhammer. Like, I'm still not 100% too keen on them, but it's nice that they have something to worry about. Because, like, even if you look at Space Marines, they're not really scared, are they? So having a fear, it makes you human, which I think is really important for a universe, especially like that.
Especially Warhammer. I think the joy of Warhammer is it's a miserable world. And like everyone is scared, and dangers around every corner, and that's what makes things grimdark, and it gives that setting so much life,
Yeah,
which is missing from Age of Sigmar, obviously. I think anyway.
It's getting better because you can see the fear in people's eyes. Like, for example, the expansion that led into third edition, which was Extremis, right? That has the Cruel Boys coming in, right? These new greenskins, which, funny enough, a lot of people don't like. They go, looks like Lord of the Rings. Yeah. That's actually based off an 80s cast of orcs. So it's actually a revival of them. And they're grim. And people are terrified because they bring a mist around them that makes them hard to see. They're skirmishing fighters. They're dangerous. These are cunning orcs, not brutal orcs. Yeah. And people are scared of the orcs that hide in the shadows, which are more, they work like the Skaven, but in a much more terrifying sense. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool, you know? I mean, you need to make that universe feel dangerous. It's the same thing with Warhammer 3. You need it to be dangerous. You need it to sound grim, or else, you know, it's a cakewalk. Nobody wants a cakewalk. For that, I can just read, say, for example, Lord of the Rings has more of a cakewalk feel, you know? Yeah. Because it's very structured that way, whereas Warhammer is, oh man, shit's going to blow up here, and shit's going to blow up here, and then suddenly rats, you know? And that's what makes it really fun to me, because everything can go tits up in a second.
Yeah.
I just had a look, and these Cruel Boys, I do like the look of them. I don't like the color of the skin that they've chosen for the preview models, but like the models themselves, I do like them. But when I looked them up, I also see some Sigmarines. I'm like, yeah, no, they still look shit. Really don't like the look of them at all.
It's a different faction to get into. Like, for example, for me, in Age of Sigmar, I'm drawn to the Chaos factions because the Chaos factions have like really nice models, which I really hope are backward compatible with Old World. Because, like those Cornate warriors are fucking cool, and the Sineshi ones are just gorgeous.
I've seen some of the models. I do quite like them. I like the Skaven models too, but for setting, I think I don't like the setting.
But it doesn't feel like
Undead Army looks great too.
Yeah. Like, you've got the Ghosts, which are the Nighthaunt, you've got the Bone Reapers, which are so different, and they're based on Warhammer Fantasy, because the Bone Reapers, the basis of what their design was the Morghast of Nagash, which are very much undead angels that Nagash in the fantasy world had twisted to his own, this is what I want. So you see those Bone Reapers and you're like, God damn, these would look great on squares, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
It's a lot of people do that too. I know people who have actually put them, and they work them as like Tomb King armies or vampire armies.
Yeah.
And
I'm looking at these death rattle skeletons. It's like, oh, these are the grave guards that I wanted to have when I was into the Vampire Count's army. I always flitted between armies so frequently, but these look freaking awesome. They look better on squares.
It's more imposing to see them in a huge death blob. That's why when I used to play, I still do, but like tabletop, I'd get a squad of 50 clan rats, and that looks insane because it's loads of ranks, and that's what makes it look intimidating. Whereas in, say, for example, Age of Sigmar, it's more of a skirmish game.
Yeah.
So you're not taking armies, you're taking squads, warbands, and you don't feel like you're fighting a war. That's the same with 40k. You're not feeling like you're fighting a war unless you're taking guardsmen or tyrannids, where you can bring loads and loads of stuff to the table and go, God damn, I have a firing line which is going to make sure that I wipe you out before you even get too close and so on. It's different for Age of Sigmar, and you never know with these types of things. The games have radically changed. I mean, Warhammer Fantasy has changed over the years. Remember, first two editions were a role play. Then there was 3, 4, and 5, which was Hero Hammer. That was based pretty much on very small armies of all skirmish style. 6th started bringing in armies, like big blocks and so on. 7th was a piece of shit. And 8th was totally broken. Unless you had money, you couldn't really play 8th.
It's something I wanted to see more in Total War a bit more, like smaller armies for some of the more order-based factions. You do kind of get it in settlements now. I think there's obviously a huge problem with sieges at the moment. I don't know if you two agree, because I think sieges are interesting. I think walls are actually a bit of a hindrance now, I've found.
Depends on how you play.
I think it also depends on who you're against. If you're against a demon and you can bait him outside the walls, just run around and have, say, Scarbrand or Nakari follow you, and your walls can just shoot at them. Some of those towers on the siege maps are just so unbelievably strong.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah. The actual siege maps, I think, are great. Like, apart from like maybe some of the blind spots for the towers, I think probably too many blind spot towers. But I think the problem is in the campaign. In my experience, the AI never actually assaults until they starve you out now. So
yeah,
a
little bit. There's a few things in Warhammer 3 which are currently an issue. Sieges is that because you don't really get too many fights to defend the settlements and so on, which is a shame because a lot of those settlements are gorgeous.
Yes,
and there's so many like interesting places because there's some great settlements that have the last stand area basically with the final point. But it's kind of completely destroyed by the fact that you have to maintain 2 control points. You know, so have a skirmish, a sort of Rorke's Drift type thing happen at the last point would have been great. But it seems they've designed it in a way that you don't have that, even though the maps are designed so you do.
Well, sieges have never really been in too much of a good place in Total War games in general.
No.
Like
the maps have got a lot better now, though, at least.
Yeah. Because people say, oh, yeah, no, it was better in Rome, it was better in this. It's like, no, it wasn't. It was always shit.
Yeah.
Like, we had good sieges in, say, Thrones of Britannia, but because they were really good maps. And I think they've been porting some of those maps into Warhammer 3.
Obviously,
Kislev looks so much like one that I've played on in Thrones of Britannia.
Yeah.
With the, like, kind of the mountain jutting out into the enemy deployment zone you have to go around. That reminds me so much of something I saw in Thrones of Britannia, and my favourite siege battle has been on that map.
It's the same with there's a few maps that look very like Roman Barbarian maps or Attila Total War maps, which and they were great maps.
Yeah.
Like, I'm cool with them porting stuff and reusing stuff as long as it's the good stuff. I mean, there's a few maps from, say, for example, Three Kingdoms that I would love to see.
Oh, yeah.
They need to redesign it because obviously Cathay is a bit more colorful in terms of art palette and so on, but it would work out quite well. I don't mind the sieges too much because at least the AI, say, for example, in minor siege battles, they'll attack and they'll split their forces, sometimes a bit too much, but they'll at least make you need to split your forces up. Or they'll, when they come in defensive, they'll deploy around the areas that you're deploying. So the AI is a little smarter, not too smart, but I can notice a difference.
Yeah, same. And I think those minor sieges are actually, because they actually assault when you straight away, which makes the battle a lot more fun. And it feels more dynamic when you're fighting down the streets, you're putting up barricades, you're building towers, you actually retreat back, which I think is the actual design principle behind all of these maps, to have tiered defenses and then a last stand at the end. It's just
they wanted to make something flashy, and I think they've done the flash.
Yeah,
I think,
absolutely. Yeah.
Like some of those maps, like have you seen? There's one unique map for Null, right, which is one of the capital of Wissenland. Like that map is gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
That map is fucking huge, and it's got like.
I'm going to look it up soon.
Dude, it is so good, and obviously that means that likely we'll get a DLC Tamukan versus Elseth, because that's the setting for the city.
Yeah.
And the first time I saw that map, I was like, "Holy crap!" Like,
well, I got to shill your content a bit because you made lots of videos showcasing those, which I really love, because I think the design behind the cities is one of the greatest things that they've done in Warhammer 3. Unfortunately, like I said, I don't think they've keyed the gameplay and the AI behavior with the design of the actual cities.
I don't think we're going to get decent AI until a new engine is here, because this is an old engine.
I think just a few tweaks would be fine. Like, change so on a major settlement, you have to hold one last point. You don't have to hold two. But you do have the last stand area, right? Which obviously these maps have got built into them. There's a great dwarven settlement that has got a last stand area, and it's like a big plinth with a big ramp staircase going up. And you can imagine, like, pulling back your forces, holding the last point as they're fighting up the stairs, and you're trying to defend with your dwarven warriors. That'd be amazing. Unfortunately, the gameplay is in such a way that you can't do that because you have to hold another point somewhere else, which is less flashy and less interesting to defend. So changing it so you just have to hold one would fix it. And also changing it so the AI doesn't siege your armies, like starve them out. Especially, oh my goodness, playing as Cafe, the points where they can they siege the Great Wall, and for some reason that starves your army. How does that make sense for a start? Like, why is your army starving when the sieges are like on one side of a Great Wall, and obviously you get placed on the other side of a Great Wall, but you siege was starved for some reason.
It's the limitations of the game, more like it. But when it comes to stuff like this, I've always told people it's very important to be vocal. Go into the forums or put some feedback into the official Discord, because the devs do read it. I know some people think they don't, but they do. They honestly really do. And it's just how it works. Be vocal, get a change. And that's what's happened. Like with you remember Twisted and Twilight? There was that issue with the mechanic for the sisters, the forging stuff. Forge Dave. That was shit. And what happened? Everyone got vocal and they changed it. It took about a few months, but they made it something a lot better. Sure, it's not perfect, but it got better.
Yeah.
And I
mean,
feel
even
like
these sieges in general, like the most vocal, other than saying, oh, this is shit, we want historical Warhammer, the biggest criticism against Warhammer 1 and 2 were the just terrible siege maps.
Yeah.
And Warhammer 3 is like, you know what? Yeah, you were all right. Here is the siege maps that you've always wanted.
Yeah. And what people don't seem to notice is because of this, this is something that I made a point across in the video. The AI has been changed and now it works around with obstacles better and so on, right?
Yeah.
So that means that modders, like the GCCM modders, will be able to make these big-ass fucking settlements that everyone wants. And you're going to have, because like GCCM mod was stunning.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Loads of unique stuff, and they put so much heart and joy into that shit. And now they're going to be able to do it a step further.
Yeah. I think
so. Like
the best internal dockable areas is something that the GCCM maps really struggled with using, and I was like, oh yeah, no, this is just a thing now. Like I'm almost certain CA looked at those GCCM maps and be like, what have they been looking to bring into Warhammer Siege maps? Oh, internal dockable areas. That's actually a really good idea. It's in. We're doing it.
Although I found playing with those archers don't seem to be as effective when we're in the dockable areas. I've found from my personal experience, but I think that just needs a tweak.
It's a vision thing. I'm sure it'll be patched.
And lots of people have talked about it too. I think all my major complaints about the game have been talked about a lot. And I'd say one thing that I had big complaints about, which I thought would never change, was the unit models. The unit cards. The unit cards. The artwork for some of the later DLCs, the unit cards were.
Yeah. And then they changed the ones for was it the Skaven DLC?
Skaven DLC and the Orc DLC. And basically they went through like 3 versions of DLC and changed all the unit cards to look amazing.
I think they care what the community thinks. And I'm not defending them because I wish they were faster and so on. The way I see it is they've been producing a game during the fucking world shutting down.
Yeah.
And comparing this launch to say other games which fell flat and had much more issues, Warhammer's not that bad. Sure, it needs an optimization patch really badly because I want other people to be able to play. Some people just can't right now.
Yeah.
But that's getting looked into, and they've mentioned it. At the end of the day, they put out the post, which is saying what they want to do and so on. They're being communicative. If you want to talk to CA staff, they are happy to talk to people in the Discord and so on. I've seen their community managers like Pingu and so on just being active with people, sharing memes and just trying to keep the morale high, which is great.
Yeah,
because they're doing what they can.
I mean, CA was not known for this. I think they've improved this massively. The engagement on Reddit, on their forums, and on Discord have improved massively over the past 2 years. I think they've had a great change of direction with the engagement. Good.
Yeah, I mean, it's they can only say so much because nowadays, now everyone's, even before the game launched, like I had some interviews with Andy Hall, the principal writer, right? And everyone was there, like when we did the live one. What about Chaos Dwarves? What about this? What about that? What about that? It's like, look, they can give you some information, but they can't give you everything because, wait, you know?
Yeah.
And then when the game came out, the patch kind of did some damage. It did some damage to my game, so it made my review look a little bit like irrelevant. I was like, no, look, this is the last patch before launch. I didn't have access to this patch, but CA had made a statement on it. Yeah, they took a few days, but they have to make sure to word it in a correct way because, come on, we've all been on Reddit, right?
Yeah.
It's not a nice place. They were,
No, it's not.
oh, it's this and that and this. Like, guys, give it time. Patience is a key here. I mean, we saw it with some of my videos that were framey. Some of Legends streams were framey, you know? And it's just how it is. It's especially, 2 years working from home. I'm imagining that's not easy. Then obviously just launch shit in general. Then one thing happened with the stuff with Game Pass, but I'm sure that's more of an Xbox thing more than Total War.
I think so, yeah.
So like, and I don't pretend to understand it. I know shit about computers, you know?
Same, yeah.
So for me, it's just like, yeah, it'll get fixed. I know it'll get fixed because they usually fix the shit.
Yeah.
It doesn't make financial sense to not fix it. Therefore, they will fix it.
Exactly.
Even the most cynical point of view can agree with that.
Yeah, I'd also we're pretty open about it. I mean, I think this is the first time I've ever every modern game launches with bugs, right? That's just a fact of life.
But not every game can point at Halo releasing as why their game failed.
But I think this is the first game I can think of, so especially in the grand strategy genre, where on the main menu when you boot up a game, there's a very large thing saying known issues, and you click on it and you can see the known issues. Most games try and sweep things under the rug for launch. I think it's quite admirable that CA has like gone, look, there's some minor bugs here, there's some performance issues, we know about this, here are the known issues.
Yeah.
I think that's good. I think that's a healthy state of game development in it.
Honesty is the best policy, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, obviously,
trust and people who trust you will come back. They'll be like, okay, you're forthright about this, you're upfront about this.
Yeah.
I'll come back in a little while. But if you basically say, oh no, there's no problem, and you're having problems, you're like, all right, fuck it, I'll go play something else then, and you probably won't come back.
Exactly. And we know. Look, even when people say I'm never playing Total War again, blah blah blah, they're coming back.
Of course they are.
Yeah.
They're coming back because we all come back. I quit because of fucking Rome 2, and
yeah.
Here I am.
Yeah, I mean, there's that very famous picture from years and years ago now of the Steam group boycott Call of Duty or whatever it was, and like at the Steam community, it's 100 people playing Call of Duty.
Yeah. It's just it's always going to be a thing, but I know that they're panicking about it and so on. And they're trying to get it fixed and all that because they're a company that cares. Like I said, I've spoken to a few people at CA, and I see their genuine love for the franchise. I see their genuine love not just for Total War, but Warhammer 2. And I think that's cool because that makes me able to speak to them, not as people who are basically handing me free work, because I'll be honest, yes, I do benefit from launches and DLC and so on, just like any other fucking content creator.
Yeah.
But like I get to speak to them on a friendly level because I'm like, oh look, they love Warhammer almost as much as me, almost. But it's there, and we talk about painting and so on. Like there's one I speak to, and he shows me his new stuff that he's been painting, and we'll start trading tips about new different types of paints and so on. Like Pro Acrylics, titanium white is the best white paint I've ever used in my life, and that was because of him.
Yeah.
Well, I'll take that one to heart. White has always been. I mean, I say it's always been my Achilles heel. It's been everybody's. Everyone's fucking hated Skull White.
Paints over red with no problem.
Are you saying I shouldn't use this massive Dulex can of white paint to paint my mod?
No.
I just dip him in a can and just leave him overnight.
You'd be surprised how many people do that with washers. It's kind of scary how they do it with washers, but like. It's important because that means that I can relate to him on a friendly level. because it's not just a working relationship. So I know, like, these people are interested and so on. That's why I'm so happy to basically talk up Total War. I mean, I do that on a near daily basis, and I enjoy it. If I didn't enjoy it, I just wouldn't be making videos on it. But I see a lot of potential with this universe when you see them being so actively talking. When they give modders support, despite, yes, there was a little hiccup recently, but that was someone else causing that hiccup.
Yeah.
But you see it there. Like, they give modders a lot of stuff to work with. That's why we've got amazing mods like OVN Lost Factions. Like, holy crap. That is the only reason why I've been playing Warhammer 2 just constantly, because it brings so much to the table. And it's great. They shout out modders, they shout out creators, they shout out people who do community art and so on. Like, that's fucking cool, man.
No, I don't know much about it. So has Warhammer 3 got more modability than Warhammer 2 then? Because I haven't actually looked into this at all.
So the mod tools aren't out yet.
Right.
But modders weren't using the CA official mod tools.
No.
They were using a separate program, and I know modders who, for example, Xenon, who's been helping me with the data mining stuff, right?
Yeah.
He's been working on mods, and he's actually got a few mods. I can actually go here because we've got a thing there. He's got an unstable mod OneDrive, which has access, which he's made mods for people. And this is stuff like stopping the chaos stuff. So if you just want to play Warhammer 3 as a sandbox.
I've seen a lot of people wanting that.
Oh, yeah.
Xenon is doing a lot of really cool stuff. Mods that spawn Be'lakor, so you can just play as Be'lakor from the beginning. He's very talented. That's why he's part of the SFO team, because he's a very talented modder. He's a while back, he was working on something which never got finished, unfortunately, because they had to push the last SFO patch out before Warhammer 3 hype started and so on.
Yeah.
But he was working on Vermin Lords, and they look really fucking cool. And he thinks that maybe I can have it out by the time the Immortal Empires comes out, like. Because we're expecting that to come out. Warhammer 2's one came out a month or two later. First launch.
I think it'd probably take a bit longer. Although I was surprised because you've data mined for maps already for Dark Elf maps. I'm surprised they've already done that, because I think that was the biggest hurdle for them, reworking all the old, including like Vampire Coast. There's even Vampire Coast maps, which I was surprised.
Yeah. So far, I found... Well, Xenon found. I'm not taking any credit. Vampire Coast, Bretonnia, High Elves, Dark Elves, Tomb Kings. The Tomb King ones look really, really cool.
Yeah.
There's a few encrypted ones.
I love the symmetry of Tomb King.
It looks like a scarab.
Yeah, it's cool, right? And again, those maps have got great last stand positions, especially there's one about Tomb King one that has a big long corridor. If they just remove the need to keep 2 points, imagine fighting down that corridor. If you've seen it, if you haven't seen it, go check out his video on the data mine maps, because they are gorgeous.
I posted your link early in chat. I'm going to post it again.
I think that they'll listen to community feedback and then probably do like a Siege rework for the Siege rework, because it's not out of the question. We've had, say, for example, we had a second Dwarf rework for Warhammer 2.
Yeah.
So it's very possible that they could go, okay, so they're not keen on the 2 points, let's move it down to 1. So on. Like, I feel like they'll listen to that, because they've taken feedback from creators when we were doing the early access stuff. They're great with that type of stuff, because they want to make sure that the game succeeds. And from a content creator which heavily devotes himself to that type of content, I want to see the game fucking succeed, especially because this world is so important to me. And I feel like they will listen. Like, I feel like they're probably further along in the world map than they gave out, because they did say, it's a prototype. I think that's bullshit. Keep in mind, obviously, something that I found myself is that CA Sophia got moved to Warhammer. These were the devs behind a Total War Saga Troy, which They made phenomenal DLC. Phenomenal. While Troy itself was not successful, but I imagine that's because of the Epic exclusivity for the first year kind of hurts it and so on.
Yeah.
Like the last DLC, the Memnon one, Rhesus and Memnon, that was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
that
brought me
mechanic,
back into the game.
Yeah.
I played a lot more when that came out.
the mechanic that Memnon has, I literally messaged someone at CA that I know. I was like, that's what I want for Dogs of War. That one, please.
Yeah.
I was like, that would be perfect. It's just, it screams Dogs of War. Or what they did with the last DLC for Free Kingdoms. The South stuff. All the really intricate stuff. I literally made a video, which I think they took that to Let's Do This. I made a video when we had early access with that, which, in all fairness, I should have been promoting Free Kingdoms. But I was like, look at this mechanic. This needs to be for Neferata. Yes. So badly. And they shared that video. They shared that video because I was literally just going, holy crap, this is perfect for Neferata. Like, never mind Free Kingdoms. This is so good because it's so structured. This is nothing that we've ever seen before. I love this. I fucking love this.
Yeah.
And they shared that. I was like, oh, maybe they took it. Like, I really love it. They did. And every now and then I'll message my friend. It's like, just remember this video, you know? Because it's so... it's such an inspired thing.
I
mean, they respond to the passion, really, and I think you've got that part covered quite well.
Yeah, I think we're definitely going to see Neferata, that's for sure. I mean, like, I think we had to guess, like, you know, obviously Chaos Dwarves. Neferata, I think, is up there. I think we're going to have a Boris Todbringer.
Body's coming.
Boris is already in the game. You can fight him.
Yeah. But nobody wants to play Boris without the Storm of Chaos army.
Yeah, and also, like, you know, Oryx stuff, you know, like having... Yeah.
I think we're probably going to see Nagash.
We are.
There was that, the shields, like his symbol on the shields we've seen.
Yeah. So that shield itself kind of worried me, in a sense. Because while I love the End Times units, I fucking hate the End Times plot.
But I mean, that's not an uncommon thing.
I think, true.
But that artwork is End Times. And I had to poke a little fun at CA on my community posts on YouTube where I said, oh, CA, we're not adding End Times stuff, we promise.
Yeah.
And then this is End Times specific artwork, because that is actually from a Regiment of Renown of Graveguard. Yeah. But Nagash would be fucking cool.
How would he work, though? That's a thing, because he'd only turn... You can't be it from the start of a game. Maybe he would, but, like...
He is active in the lore at that point. He's just... best way to explain him... Imagine a dude being hooked up to life support.
Yeah.
So he would still be properly active. And I've already had an idea, and I've talked about this in videos and so on, where this is, again, taking from a Total War Saga Troy, because the Sophia team are just really fucking good at what they've done.
I've met them. They're wonderful. The Sophia team are really, really passionate about their games.
And there's a mechanic there. Remember when you went for a mythological beast? You would beat that beast. You would then have buildings automatically put into your building roster, which would then give you some new units, which followed, like, say, for example, the Griffin or the Hydra and so on. My theory, and this has been something which I got called out for on the Reddit, it's like, oh, you're thinking too much. They're not going to do End Times. It's like, I was right about Cafe.
Yeah.
Like, I confirmed Cafe 4 months before they fucking announced Cafe. Before I even knew fucking Cafe was coming. But I confirmed it because of some fucking devs on the Total War Warhammer battles on the mobile, right? They leaked Cafe, and I was still going, oh, they're not doing Cafe. So my theory is you're going to play as Nagash in a weakened state. And you'll be getting missions to go beat down Tomb Kings and Vampire Counts and Vampire Coast. As you beat them down, you'll get a bigger roster. So if you beat a Vampire Coast Lord and you confederate them, you get access to Vampire Coast units. You beat Tomb Kings, you confederate them. You can't confederate Cetra, though, because, you know,
of course, Cetra
will not serve.
Yeah, that's
exactly.
Right. Yeah.
Then you get access to Tomb Kings, and then you would go for the Vampire Counts and get access to Vampire Count units. And I think, yes, it would be a horrendously massive roster, but you already have that with the Demon Prince, so who the fuck cares?
Yeah.
fun is better than anything else.
See, I
dig it.
I would suspect they're just going to give him Tomb King roster.
Thing is, not a lot of Tomb Kings follow him.
But that's like his. Yeah, true. But I think because his style is that's really.
Oh no, yeah, he is a Tomb King. I mean, he was going to be the High Priest, and then he decided to. Well, he has basically Nagash's law is small penis syndrome. He wanted to rule, and his brother was also going to because how it works is like his brother was going to rule, his brother was going to be the king, so he was joined into the priesthood. But he was also in love. So this doesn't nobody actually knows this because they don't read that type of law. But he was in love with his brother's missus too. So a lot of what spurned him to be that total asshole that he was literally small penis syndrome. And that's why
the original Redditor.
Yeah. Nagash, the OG Redditor. He's going to be like a Tomb King with a bit of a neck beard going on. Perfect.
It's a lot of obscure lore that people don't know. Like, a lot of people go, "Oh, Vlad von Carstein and Isabella is the greatest love story," right? Which it is. Like, even in the end times,
are you gonna be disagreeing with this one? What?
No, because like even in the end times, they had the best lore of the end times was literally their story because it was heartbreaking. It was written really well.
Yeah.
But what a lot of people don't know is Vlad was originally married to Neferata.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
So she was grooming him to be the champion, and they fell in love and so on. But a lot of people don't know that type of lore, which is why when people say, "Yeah, Tomb Kings for Nagash," it's like that's going to take effort. He needs to beat them down because he did a lot of horrible shit to them.
Yeah.
Like he was a fucking tyrant. Setra was a tyrant, but Setra's down here. And Nagash is like up here. You can't see my hand, but
yeah, it's pretty high up. Yeah,
yeah. There's a lot of obscure lore, which is like that's why I want to see him confederate and take over. That's what he does in the End Time series. He physically has to convert. This was an actual tabletop rule where he had to convert the Tomb Kings to join him.
Yeah,
it was I think at a 4+. On a 4+, he would convert them. And it was really interesting. It was a really fun scenario. That type of stuff. The vampires, on the other hand, they follow him because they hear him. It's in the back of their head. Nagash is always talking to them.
Yeah.
They might not know it's Nagash, but it's Nagash. It's very obscure lore, but it's what makes Nagash such a terrifying thing. This is why some vampires lose their minds and become Varghulfs too, or Vargheists, because they go completely feral. It might be lack of blood, or it could also be the master that created them.
Yeah. No,
it's pretty grimdark.
I hope there's like some mechanic. My hope is if they do add Nagash, that he's not a playable legendary lord walking around the map at the start. There's a really good mod for Civilization 4, which I bang on about a lot, called Fall from Heaven. And one of the factions within that was called the Ilians. It had an interesting thing. Basically, this guy who used to be a god of winter got beaten up. But most of the game is you trying to resurrect him. And then, like, towards the end of the game, you finally get this really, really powerful lord. So I hope something like that happens with Nagash. He's on life support, and basically the first early and mid game is basically you're trying to resurrect him, and then bang, in the end game, you get this amazing legendary lord for you.
See, it's kind of tough. It's kind of tough with those types of things, because it's a bit difficult to do and so on.
Yeah.
I imagine something similar could be done. Like, I would love to see a weakened Nagash start off, and maybe it would be, instead of playing as Nagash at the beginning, you'd have to play with a rework Arkan the Black.
Yeah.
Because Arkan has to go to, at the beginning he goes into Bretonia, doesn't he? To go into the defiled graves and so on, and obviously he kidnaps a bunch of people. Volkmar, the elf princess, and so on. Obviously not that complex, because keep in mind this is a total war game.
Yeah.
But it would be kind of cool if you could start off and summon him.
Yeah, that would be amazing. And also, that would be great. I mean, you could move Arkan the Black away from, you move him up to, I forget the name of the region. You know the region where the Tomb of Nagash is.
Nagash is all, yeah.
Yeah, that's the one. move him there, and then that also opens up room for Araby. So yeah, 2 birds, 1 stone.
I mean, a lot of people thought we were going to see Nagash in Warhammer 2 because the Tomb King DLC came out, and he was mentioned a lot.
Yeah.
And then it turns out that Nagash's brother survived and he was ruling the Black Pyramid, which even to me was like, whoa, that's a bit of a rewrite. But it was kind of interesting because then it started mentioning stuff, which is why I think we're going to get Nagash. Because then we started seeing mention of Constant Drachenfels, which Constant is an enigma. He's a paradox throughout the Warhammer world. Because he shouldn't really exist. He was human before there were humans,
Yeah.
And he's such an ancient mystery that even Nagash is kind of scared of him. So Nagash makes sure that his memory was wiped, and he's like, "Oh yeah, don't worry, I'll give you your memory back if you help me." Which, and then that's why we didn't get Luthor Huss, because Constant goes into Luthor's body to possess him.
Yeah.
Because Luthor would have been a great legendary lord choice, and we haven't seen him. Why is that? Why is Constant Drachenfels Castle in Warhammer 3? Castle Drachenfels is there.
Yeah. And Fat Shark have already ran a lot with Drachenfels already with DLC. So
there's a lot of possibilities. Then we start seeing mentions of it when Luthor Harkin, when you complete his campaign, Nagash personally summons him.
Yeah.
Then there's Diathin gets a personal summons from Drachenfels, who at that point is already working for Nagash. So there's a lot of this is happening. As much as people want to say it's not happening, it's happening. It happened with the Monogods. Everyone, did you ever see the forums when people were speculating about Warhammer 3?
Well, yes. I mean, the Monogods were it was part of a Russian leak with Warhammer 1 where they were going to split Chaos into the respective gods in 3, and people were very, very, very skeptical. Even when that was it was an open secret they were planning to do it.
I think that leak was pretty fake. I've never actually properly asked, but you do get a lot of fake leaks happening. Like people saying, "Oh yeah, we're gonna get." Because I remember the original leak was that this was the more closer to Warhammer 3.
Yep.
Was that we weren't gonna get Monogods, we were gonna get Chaos Undivided.
Yeah.
And we were going to have Kislev, but Kislev was going to be what was it? I think it was going to be led by Boris, which wouldn't have made sense because in the timeline where we are, Boris is dead.
Yeah.
So there's so much which I always take the leaks with a pinch of salt. Don't get me wrong, sometimes leaks are true. Like, for example, it happened with Science and the Fury. The unit cards for the monsters got leaked. And even I thought, nah, this is fake, man. Because it was a Jabba's Life, it was a Gorgon, it was everything that everyone was asking for. I was like, nah, this is fucking fake. This is definitely fake.
Yeah.
Especially the Jabba's Life, that was like people absolutely begging so hard for that unit.
Yeah.
And it seemed it just was never going to happen. Then come out and nah.
So I saw it and I got asked on stream because the leak happened during one of my streams, and I'm like, nah, this is definitely because this artwork is too good for CA's unit cards.
Yeah.
And then about 2 days later, I got access to the DLC. I'm like, oh fuck, it was right. I was insulting CA's art team. I'm really sorry.
Or you were complimenting it. It's so good. It's so much better than what's come before. Yeah.
No, I was actually saying like, oh no, CA's art team is not that good. So I was like, oh, I feel really bad. But then again, it was really cool because obviously I've been asking for a Jabba Snipe. I have like 5 painted Jabba Snipes, right? That fucking model is awesome. So I was like, oh man, I hope this is true.
Yeah. No, I've been quite impressed with all the models. Slanesh, I thought they did a really good job with Slanesh. I thought they were going to tone it way down.
Slanesh was beautiful. Slanesh was... that was the first thing. I can freely admit the first thing I played as soon as I got access was a Nikari campaign. And I looked at the Marauders, because we never had Marauders of Slanesh. We had them on Hellstriders and so on, which were a unit from the army book, but the foot variants was never a thing.
Yeah.
And they made a sword variant, because we never really had them with swords. It's just a shorter version of the spear and so on, but I thought that was so cool. And I complimented the devs for it. I sent a message directly to the influencer managers. I was like, look, please tell them that I'm really happy, because that's something I always wanted in the tabletop.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like, that for me was just like, oh god, this is so fucking great. Like Slanesh is in desperate need of some extra units and so on, and the chariots do not work well at the moment. But I had the fucking time of my life playing as
they're great.
as Nikari.
The animations are wonderful too, but the sort
Incredible.
of sassy walks of it, amazing.
The fiends. The fiends have got the absolute best animations that I've seen so far in Total War. They are, and I half the time don't even know what it is I'm seeing. I can't like comprehend the movements that are going on.
Yeah,
and that's exactly what they should be. It's perfect.
I want to talk about Nurgle's animation, but I think we should probably try and wrap up. Otherwise, Leanna's probably going to have an aneurysm.
I think she already is.
Yeah, probably. It's a bit longer than our normal podcasts. So let's wrap up before I start waxing lyrical about Nurgle's animations. So I normally ask like what people have been up to. So Great Book of Grudges. Where can people find you, and what sort of...
Well, you can find me on YouTube on The Great Book of Grudges. I post almost daily about Total War Warhammer, any Warhammer video games, tabletop stuff, pretty much. If you want Warhammer and a lot of complaining, you can find me there, or on Twitter, TGrudges. I bitch a lot there too.
And if you're like me and you've got a weird obsession with Warhammer architecture and stuff, check out his videos on siege maps, especially the stuff that they haven't released yet. Wonderful, amazing stuff. Lambert, what have you been up to?
I've been playing a bit of Warhammer, obviously. That's become my unscheduled stream. I'll just be playing Warhammer now. Nice. But for my schedule stuff, obviously still going on with the Ambernar multiplayer, and also some D&D on Mondays, and that's all super fun.
Sweet.
And yourself? Any comics or just DIY as per usual?
I've been working on like a few little assets for European Universalis team. See if it comes about. Pretty good. Mainly, a miracle happened to me this week. I went onto the Morrison's website, which is a supermarket in the UK. There was a bug on their system. Pork pies were being sold for a penny, so I bought like 100 pork pies. So my house is. That's probably the greatest thing that's happened to me. Amazing.
Can't go wrong with that, to be honest.
No,
I mean, yeah.
Penny of pork pie. It was. Oh my god! I've been waxing lyrical about this wonderful thing.
How many have you got left?
Well, I've eaten like one a day, pretty much. Pork pies. It's not a healthy thing. Like, I mean, good pork pies. Look at them. Look at the size of them. They're huge. A penny that was. Incredible. But yeah, I do want to get a comic up soon. It's been too long since I've got a comic up. I've got some ideas for Warhammer comics. Soon, hopefully. Fingers crossed.
Lovely.
But in the meantime... Oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, thanks so much for coming on and chatting Warhammer with us. It's been genuinely a pleasure having you on.
Yeah, it's been wonderful. Yeah.
It is very much like I said, Warhammer's been something that I've been into for a very long time, but it's been like an on and off. It's like I have always wanted to get more into it, but I've never had let's be honest, the financial means to go as deep as I wanted to. So it's been like a genuine pleasure having you on, because you're living the life I wanted.
Well, this is a part-time thing for me. I've just really like putting a lot of expendable income into that because, well, I work stupid long shifts. So anything I get extra after I pay my bills and so on, it's like, could do with the doom wheel.
Adam's with a pile of doom wheels. Yeah, we'll definitely get you back on, especially if predictions around Nagash and Araby and stuff come to fruition. Sure. All right. In the meantime, you can find us all on the regular places, social media and all that. And we are back to doing regular, normal podcasts. And hopefully, if you're listening on there, you can hear this now, I guess. Have a lovely evening. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.